My flight got canceled at LAX, and while waiting, I saw my wife of 15 years board a plane to Dubai with 3 teenagers who looked just like her. The oldest, around 17, called her Mom, and she had no idea I'd be there to see everything unravel. I was standing in the middle of Newark Airport when my entire life came apart. Loud, messy, and so fast it felt like someone had ripped the floor out from under me. It was supposed to be a simple layover. I was flying home early from a construction safety conference in Toronto, tired, annoyed, half hungry. My wife, Lena Hartman, thought I'd be back in Boston tomorrow. I'd even texted her a picture of my crappy airport sandwich, joking that I was suffering for my profession. I was scrolling through my emails near gate C112 when I heard a voice I knew down to the bone. Lena's voice. Warm, smooth, unmistakable. "No way," I muttered without thinking. I turned, and there she was. But she wasn't alone. Lena walked across the terminal with 2 boys and a girl, teenagers, all of them moving around her with the easy, unthinking closeness of real family. The oldest boy, maybe 16, slung his arm over her shoulders. The girl, maybe 14, leaned into Lena while looking at her phone. The youngest kid trailed behind with a backpack and a half-finished soda. And Lena, she was laughing, the genuine kind, the one she hadn't given me in years. "Mom, the gate's this way," the oldest boy said. "Mom." My stomach dropped so hard I nearly doubled over. I stood up automatically, heart pounding, brain exploding, watching them stop at the Qatar Airways counter while a uniformed attendant scanned their passports. I had the perfect angle. I could see everything. Her face, her smile, her damn passport, the name Lena Villarreal printed across the top. Not Hartman, not my wife. And then I saw it, the matching surname on all 3 kids' boarding passes. My hand went ice-cold around the armrest. I felt myself shake. "Lena, my Lena," kissed the oldest boy's forehead. "Text your dad once you land," she told him. Their dad. The boarding line started moving. They handed over their documents. The airline agent welcomed them aboard, cheerful and oblivious. The kids disappeared down the jetway first. Lena went next, turning so briefly that I caught a full, impossible look at her face. She never saw me. My phone buzzed. A text from Lena. "Movie night with my sister. Miss you. Can't wait for you to get back." Red heart. Attached was a selfie of her and her sister. Wine glasses, cozy couch, some Hallmark movie paused on screen. The timestamp said it was taken just now. Except I was staring straight at my wife boarding a plane to Doha with 3 kids who shared her cheekbones, her jawline, her damn smile. Kids old enough that my brain did the math instantly. These children existed years before she ever met me. My chest felt like something inside was tearing open. My ears rang. My vision tunneled. The jetway door slid shut. The plane backed away. And I stood there holding the last 12 years of our marriage like a cracked piece of glass. I forced myself to breathe. I sat down. Then I opened my laptop. Not because I wanted answers, but because I suddenly knew Lena wasn't just cheating. She was living a second life. And if the second life had kids, God only knew what else she had. My hands trembled over the keyboard, but my mind snapped into focus. Sharp, cold, and deadly calm. I started digging, and that's when I found the first thing that didn't make sense. The thing that made everything worse. The thing that proved this wasn't just betrayal. This was premeditated. This was constructed. This was a woman I never knew. And someone else, someone I didn't recognize, was tied to her secrets in a way that made my blood run cold. I grew up believing I could read people. That was my thing. I wasn't the loudest friend or the funniest, but I could walk into a room and know exactly who was stressed, who was hiding something, who was about to explode. I used to joke that I should have been a detective instead of a construction safety manager. But thinking back now, I didn't know a damn thing. I met Lena Hartman, or whatever her real last name was, 12 years ago in Providence, Rhode Island. I was visiting my cousin, killing time in one of those overpriced coffee shops with exposed brick and sad plants. She walked in wearing a navy coat, hair pulled back, glasses sliding down her nose. She looked like she had her entire life color-coded and alphabetized. Something about her drew my eyes instantly. She ordered a black coffee and spilled half of it on her sleeve before she even paid for it. I remember laughing under my breath and she caught me. Instead of being embarrassed, she smiled like spilling coffee was some cute quirk she knew about herself. I found out later she hated black coffee. That still kind of pisses me off. We talked for 40 minutes about work, travel, Rhode Island traffic. It was one of those conversations that feels like it's been waiting for you your whole life. She gave me her number. I saved it under Lena, coffee disaster. We went on 3 dates in 1 week. She said she had no family except a sister she barely talked to. Said she came from a rough home. Said she moved to Providence because it was the first place where she felt safe. She laughed easily, listened closely, and looked at me like I was the one thing in the room she wanted to understand. I should have noticed even then her phone was always on silent. She never talked much about her past. She traveled occasionally for work conferences, mostly to the West Coast or Arizona. Said she handled risk assessment for a biomedical research company. I never questioned it. Why would I? I loved her. I trusted her. When we got married 4 years later, she cried during the vows. Hard, ugly tears. I thought it meant something deep. I didn't realize until much later those weren't tears of love. They were tears of relief. Relief that her second life had landed smoothly. Relief that she'd fooled me. She insisted on keeping her maiden name for professional reasons. I didn't push it. I thought she was a modern, independent woman. Turns out she just needed her 2 identities separate enough that neither husband tripped any wires. We bought a condo in Somerville. I worked long hours. She worked longer ones. She always had some story about a lab mix-up or a late-night report or a teammate who couldn't present without her. She traveled every 2 to 3 months, always during school vacations, which, hilariously, I thought was a coincidence. The biggest fights we ever had were about kids. I wanted them. She didn't. She'd shut down every time I brought it up. Said she wasn't built for motherhood. Said she didn't want to ruin our life. I believed her. I thought she was being honest. Meanwhile, she had an entire family, actual children, who probably FaceTimed her daily. I should have seen it, I guess. But love blinds you in the stupidest ways. You tell yourself it's trust, it's maturity, it's respect. But it's not. It's hope. Hope that the person you love is exactly who they say they are. And that hope is what makes the betrayal feel like a knife someone twisted slow. Because the worst part isn't the lies. It's realizing you never knew the person at all. And I didn't. Not even close. I didn't sleep the night I saw her at the airport. I sat in a cheap hotel room across from the terminal with my laptop open, the TV muted, and this tight buzzing in my skull like my brain was about to overheat. I started with the selfie she'd sent me, the sister night, the Hallmark movie, the wine, all of it. I dragged it into a metadata viewer, something I'd only used before to check timestamps on construction photos. The selfie wasn't taken that night. It wasn't taken last week. It wasn't even taken this year. It was 2 years old. And the location tag? Philadelphia, not Boston. Lena had never once mentioned Philadelphia. Not once in 12 years. That was the first red flag. The first lie that actually had a date and time attached to it. A lie with coordinates. Once you see one hole in the wall, the rest of the house starts looking crooked. I checked her credit card statements next. She told me she used her own card for personal work travel because her company reimbursed her. That was why our joint card didn't always show flights. Except there were no reimbursements. No deposits from her company. Nothing. But there were monthly cash withdrawals. Not huge. $400 here, $600 there. Always from different ATMs. Different towns. Different days. She told me she was helping her sister with medical bills. Funny how that sister didn't actually exist. Just for kicks, because by then I was spiraling. I searched our joint account for anything older than 5 years. Stuff I barely remembered. And I found a recurring payment to a storage facility in Delaware. Delaware? We'd never lived anywhere near Delaware. We'd never even driven through Delaware except once to get to DC. I wrote down the address anyway. Something about it felt wrong. But the final straw, the moment everything shifted from confusion to something colder, came around 2 a.m. when I Googled the name on the kids' passports. Villarreal. Took 3 minutes to find him. Marco Villarreal. Oil industry contractor. Based in Doha. Married for 18 years to a woman named Lena Villarreal. My Lena. I stared at the screen, trying to process the impossible. The photos online were small, blurry, but there she was, standing beside Marco at a charity gala, wearing a red dress I'd never seen in my life. I zoomed in until the pixels looked like static. Her smile, her hair, her face pressed into her husband's arm. It was her. But the terrifying part wasn't the photos. It was the dates. Some of those pictures were taken back when she and I were already married, which meant she wasn't just living 2 lives. She'd been living them simultaneously, synchronizing travel schedules like someone choreographing a symphony. That's when I called someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Eli Forsyth, my old college roommate, and now a cybersecurity analyst who specialized in corporate fraud. He picked up half asleep. "Dude, it's 1 a.m. I need help," I said. "And before you ask, no, it can't wait." He groaned but told me to give him 10 minutes to wake up. When he called me back, I explained everything. The airport, the kids, the fake sister, the second family in Doha, the storage unit, the metadata, the lies. He went silent for a long time, then said, "Jesus, Rob, this isn't cheating. This is operational." What does that even mean? It means she's running systems, patterns, cycles. This is planned. This is maintained. This is practiced. This isn't a woman lying about a side piece. This is someone running parallel lives. "And the worst part?" I asked. He exhaled. "The worst part is that people who do this don't stop. They scale. Scale." The word punched me in the ribs. I felt a cold, crawling dread move through me, because I suddenly understood what scared me most. If she'd built 2 lives this perfectly, what if there were more? Eli didn't waste time. By the next afternoon, he called me with a tone I'd never heard from him before. Tight, clipped, like he was bracing for impact. "Rob, are you sitting down?" I was pacing my living room, curtains closed, stomach a mess. "Just tell me. There's another identity." I stopped moving. "What do you mean, another identity?" "I mean your wife isn't just Lena Hartman here and Lena Villarreal in Qatar. She has a third name, a third address, a third life." My throat went dry. "Where?" He hesitated. "Texas. Texas." A place I had never once heard come out of her mouth. He sent me a file. I opened it. Lena Merritt, age 41, residence. Austin, Texas, occupation. Freelance corporate consultant, emergency contact. T. Merritt, spouse? I scrolled. A photo loaded. A man. Early 40s, sandy hair, thick glasses, smiling like the world was safe. Next to him, arm around his back, head on his shoulder, was her. My wife. Except in this photo, she looked different, looser, lighter, wearing faded jeans and a t-shirt like someone who lived a normal, grounded life. She looked happy, happier than I'd ever seen her. Eli's voice cut into my silence. "Rob, there's more. There's a mortgage under the name Merritt. Joint bank account. Utility bills. She's been actively paying them." "How long?" I whispered. 9 years. I had to sit down. 9 years. 9 years she had been splitting time between me and another husband in the United States, while also raising another family across the world. 3 husbands. 3 entire identities. 3 separate homes. The room spun. "And Rob," his voice dropped lower, "there's a kid." I shut my eyes. "Don't." "She has a son in Austin. 8 years old." Everything inside me froze, like someone had hit a kill switch. I opened the photo he sent. A little boy with her eyes, her smile, her damn dimples. I felt something crack in my chest, sharp and final. My voice came out hollow. "Does her Texas husband, this Merritt guy, know?" "No. He thinks she consults for companies on the East Coast. Thinks she travels a lot. Thinks she's just busy." My vision blurred around the edges. Kid. A whole additional child I never knew existed. It was like every oxygen molecule had been sucked out of the room. Eli, I finally managed. How the hell is this possible? How does someone maintain 3 lives? She's good, he said quietly. Really good. And she hides in plain sight. She schedules travel so it looks like work. She tells each husband she's staying with family. She keeps separate phones, separate emails, separate everything. And I bet I'm not the only idiot who believed her. I muttered. Rob, Eli said. There's something else. I didn't respond. I didn't want more. But he kept going. Remember that storage unit in Delaware? The one you flagged? Yeah. I pulled the rental history. It's not a storage unit. My heart thudded. Then what is it? It's a mailbox hub. She's been receiving mail there under 6 different names. 6. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, fingers dug into my hair. You're telling me she has at least 6 identities? No, he said. I'm telling you those are just the ones tied to mail. There could be more. My whole body went numb. And here's the kicker, Eli added. I didn't think there could be a kicker, but apparently life wasn't done gutting me. You're being watched. I slowly lifted my head. What? Your IP address keeps getting pinged from 2 foreign servers. Someone is monitoring your searches. My guess? She knows you saw her at the airport. My stomach twisted so hard I nearly threw up. He lowered his voice. Rob, I think she's preparing to disappear. Disappear. Again. For good. Which meant if I didn't act soon, I might never get answers. Never get justice. Never learn who the hell I'd actually married. My hands were shaking, but for the first time in days my mind was clear. If she wanted to vanish, good. I'd make damn sure she didn't do it on her terms. There's a moment in every disaster where shock finally burns off and something colder takes its place. For me, that moment hit around 3 a.m., sitting on my kitchen floor with the lights off, staring at my phone like it was a detonator. 3 husbands, 3 lives, for kids, 6 identities. And now she knew I knew. That meant the clock had started ticking. If Lena vanished, she'd take the truth with her. And she'd been disappearing her whole life, slipping in and out of identities like clothes. I knew one thing with absolute certainty. The only way to stop someone like her is to get ahead of her. So I called the one person who'd always kept me grounded. My younger sister, Maya. She lived in Chicago, worked as a family lawyer, and had a terrifying ability to stay calm through absolute chaos. She picked up on the second ring. Rob, it's late. What's wrong? I told her everything. Not all at once, because my voice kept cracking, but in pieces like ripping off bandages until the whole wound was out in the open. She didn't interrupt, didn't gasp, didn't judge. When I finally finished, she inhaled slowly. Okay, she said. Here's what we're going to do. I didn't know how badly I needed that word until she said it. Maya laid out the first step with the steadiness she inherited from our mother. 1. Document everything. Screenshots, timestamps, travel logs, bank statements. Enough to build a chronological timeline no one could ignore. 2. Secure yourself legally. Freeze joint accounts. Change passwords. Pull credit reports in case she'd used my identity for any of her scams. 3. Do not confront her alone. People who juggle multiple lives don't respond well to being cornered, Maya warned. Especially when they think they're smarter than everyone else. And Lena always thought she was smarter. But it wasn't enough. Not for what she'd done. Not for the years she'd stolen. I needed more. Something with weight. Something she couldn't wriggle out of. So I called Eli again. We're not going to the police yet, I told him. Not until we understand the full structure. He snorted. Structure. You sound like you're inspecting a collapsed bridge. That's exactly what I'm doing. Because I realized something while listening to Maya. Something I hadn't let myself think before. Lena didn't just lie. She engineered this. She built an entire ecosystem of identities, relationships, money flows, and travel cycles. It was a machine, and I'd been one of its gears. I wasn't tearing it down emotionally. I was dismantling it systematically. Eli and I spent 3 days building a map, literal and digital, of her movements over the last decade. We found patterns in her travel that lined up with school vacations in Doha, but also with conference seasons in Austin, and suspiciously coincided with times when she had urgent deadlines and locked herself in the guest room. We uncovered a burner phone tied to a Connecticut number she'd been using for at least 7 years. Every voicemail was stored on the cloud, which she stupidly didn't realize synced to the home Wi-Fi. Listening to them was like being stabbed in the same wound over and over. Her Texas husband, "Love you, babe. Liam misses you. Come home soon." Her Qatar husband, "Kids want to know if you're joining us for the trip next month. Let me know." And one I hadn't expected. A man's voice I didn't recognize. Older, steady, almost fatherly. "Call me back. We need to talk. You can't keep delaying. The window is closing." Eli froze the audio. "Who the hell is that?" "No idea," I said. "But he doesn't sound like a husband." "Or a victim," Eli added. We kept digging, and at 11:47 p.m. on a Thursday, we hit something big. A bank transfer, $9,800, sent from one of her hidden Delaware accounts to a private P.O. box in Houston. A P.O. box tied to that same unknown man. I felt my pulse spike. "Eli," I said quietly, "I don't think Lena's working alone." He didn't respond right away. Then, "No, I think she's part of something. And whatever it is, you just stepped into it." For the first time since this nightmare started, I felt real fear crawl up my spine, because betrayal is one thing, but a conspiracy, that's something else entirely. The thing about digging this deep into someone's lies is you start expecting every floorboard to creak, every shadow to move. But nothing prepared me for what happened next. It was a Saturday morning, barely 7 a.m., when someone started pounding on my front door. Not knocking, pounding. The kind of pounding that says whoever's out there isn't leaving without something. I froze. Eli had warned me we might have eyes on us. Maya had told me not to open the door for anyone I wasn't expecting. But standing still didn't stop the hammering. I finally crept to the peephole. 2 men in suits. Not cops. Not FBI. Not the type who smile either. One flashed a badge toward the door. Department of Homeland Security. My stomach bottomed out. I opened the door a crack. "Can I help you, Robert Barrett?" the taller one asked. "That depends." He didn't smile. "We're here about your wife." I stopped myself. "What about her?" He pulled out a photo. A surveillance still. Lena at Logan Airport 2 years ago, wearing clothes I'd never seen and carrying a briefcase I didn't recognize. "What is this?" I asked. The second agent spoke. "We have an ongoing investigation into interstate and international identity fraud networks. Your wife's name has appeared repeatedly in connected financial routes." My blood ran cold. Interstate, international, networks. "You're saying she's part of a ring?" "We're saying," the taller agent corrected, "that she isn't working alone." His eyes locked onto mine in a way that told me he meant the next sentence very literally. "And we need to know if you are." A punch to the throat would have been less shocking. "Me?" I choked. "I didn't even know she had." "She used your address," he cut in. "Your employer's tax ID. Your old phone number. A bank account you closed 10 years ago. Your social security number has been used on at least 2 applications for credit cards opened under the name Lewis Barrett." I felt like the world tilted under my feet. She didn't just lie. She used me. She used my identity to build another one of hers. "I swear to God, I didn't know," I said. The agents looked at each other. Some silent exchange, and then the shorter one softened a little. "You're not our target, Mr. Barrett. We've been watching her for a long time, and we know from your search logs you only discovered this recently." "Wait," I snapped. "You've been watching her? For 9 years." The room spun. 9 years. 9 years they'd been tracking her. 9 years she'd been slipping through the cracks. "Why didn't you stop her?" I whispered. "Because," the taller agent said, "she's not the one we're really after." The second agent opened a folder and slid a photo into my hand. The same older man from the voicemail. Gray hair, Calm face. Expensive suit. Thomas Merritt. The emergency contact listed for her Texas identity. But I blinked hard. He's her husband in Austin. No, the agent corrected. He's her handler. Handler. The word hit like a sledgehammer. She's been running identities for him for at least a decade. The agent continued. He recruits vulnerable people, mostly women with dead-end jobs or messy pasts, and teaches them how to build second lives. Third lives. He takes a cut. They run credit, open accounts, buy and move goods. It's a full-scale fraud operation. And her Texas husband? A cover. A way to keep her anchored in the U.S. My mouth felt like sand. So what about me? What was I? The agent didn't flinch. You were her stability identity, her normal life cover, the safe husband she could point to if anyone got too close. People like her always need a clean version of themselves to hide behind. My chest constricted. She didn't marry me because she loved me. She married me to launder her image. But here's the twist, the second agent added. She's gone off script. Meaning Merritt lost contact with her 3 days ago. She's not calling him back. She's not following pattern. She's deviating. I felt a chill snake through my spine. She's planning something? I asked. Planning, he said darkly. Or running. And if she runs? I whispered. The agent's voice dropped to a cold, dead quiet. Then she'll remove unfinished ties. And you, Mr. Barrett, you are an unfinished tie. The air left my lungs. Because suddenly everything made sense. The foreign IP pings. The sudden silence from her Doha family. The child in Texas. The handler she was slipping away from. And the single question that now terrified me. Was she coming back for me? Or coming to erase me? People think the worst part of getting betrayed is the emotional knife to the heart. It's not. The worst part is learning the reason. Because the reason strips away every last shred of hope that any part of your life was real. And what Lena told me, what I eventually got out of her, was colder than anything I'd imagined. It happened the next night. I hadn't slept. Homeland Security told me not to leave town. Maya insisted on staying on FaceTime with me until I passed out, just to make sure I didn't spiral into some dark corner of my own head. Around 8 p.m., my phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. Connecticut area code. I answered cautiously. Hello. Nothing. Then breathing. A soft inhale. A shaky exhale. And then her voice. Rob. My heart stopped. Lena. She sounded different. Edges sharper. Nerves stretched thin. Not the soft, laughing voice I knew for 12 years. This one was stripped down, like whoever she really was had finally pushed the mask aside. I need you to listen, she said. I don't have much time. I swallowed hard. Homeland Security is looking for you. I know, she said, voice shaking. They found out about Austin. They found out about Doha. And they found out about Thomas. Your handler. A long silence. That's not exactly the word I'd use. Then tell me, I demanded. Tell me who he really is. Tell me what this was all for. Another deep inhale. He saved me. The words came out fragile, but underneath them I heard something else. Something dangerous. When I was 20, she continued quietly, I was drowning. A bad relationship. No stability. No money. No home. Thomas found me. He showed me how to disappear. How to rebuild from scratch. How to become someone new. So he recruited you. No, she corrected. He rescued me. By teaching you how to scam families, cheat husbands, run identities. Her tone hardened. By teaching me how to survive. I felt my nails dig into my palms. Lena, I said, you didn't survive. You destroyed people. She didn't deny it. That was somehow worse. He needed smart people, she said. Disciplined people. People who could hold multiple stories in their head without slipping. I was good at it. Very good. I'm sure you were, I said bitterly. But then, her voice cracked slightly. Then I met you. I didn't respond. I didn't plan you, she whispered. You weren't supposed to be part of the structure. You were supposed to be one conversation, one coffee, one night, but you were stable, predictable, safe. Everything in Doha and Austin was complicated, high pressure, high stakes. You were my escape hatch. My stomach twisted. So I was a disguise. No, she snapped. You were my refuge. That hit harder than anything else because she meant it. I could hear it. You were the life I wanted, she admitted. The normal life, the simple life, the honest life, the one where I could breathe, at least for a little while. I closed my eyes. So why didn't you choose it? Why didn't you choose me? Silence. Longer than before. When she finally spoke, her voice was dead serious, cold in a way that carved right through me. Because I don't love stability, she said. I consume it. My breath caught. I need people like you to anchor me, she continued. People who don't question. People who stay. People who trust. You were my foundation, Rob. My emotional cover. My alibi. My normal. And I used you because that's what I do. I use people. The words hit like ice water dumped straight into my bloodstream. And the others? I whispered. Marco? Thomas? The husband in Austin? The kids? Another breath. I needed all of you, she said simply. Different roles. Different purposes. Different versions of me. I don't love any of you. I love what you give me. I felt everything inside me go numb. Then why are you calling? I asked. Her answer was immediate. Because Thomas wants to clean house, she whispered. And he's not just coming after me. My chest tightened. What does that mean? Her final words were a whisper, barely audible, but sharp enough to slice through bone. It means you're in danger. Because you weren't supposed to wake up. When someone tells you that you were never supposed to wake up, something inside you changes. Something breaks clean through and doesn't bother healing right. After Lena hung up, I sat in my dark living room for a long time, listening to the refrigerator hum and the blood rush in my ears. I wasn't afraid. Not anymore. That fear had burned itself out somewhere around betrayal number 14. What I felt now was clarity. This wasn't about heartbreak. This wasn't about closure. This was survival, and it was long overdue. I called Maya first. She answered on the first ring. Rob. He's coming, I said simply. Thomas Merritt, her handler. He's not just after her. He's after me. She didn't gasp or panic. She went straight into attorney mode. Where are you right now? At home. Good. Stay there. I'm calling Agent Sandoval at DHS. She paused. And Rob. Yeah. You finish this. You see this through. You deserve that. Next I called Eli. What's the move? He asked. We weaponize her lies. He exhaled a short, sharp breath. Damn. Okay. I'm in. For 2 hours, Eli and I organized everything. Every file, every timestamp, every credit card, every fake identity. Into a single airtight dossier. Not for the police. Not for the courts. For Thomas Merritt. The man who thought he'd been running Lena. The man who used vulnerable women as tools. The man who saw people as assets. I wasn't an asset. I was a liability. And I wanted him to feel what liabilities do when cornered. At 11:30 p.m., a black sedan parked across from my house. A man stepped out, tall, composed, expensive coat. He moved like someone who'd stared down police before and walked away untouched. Thomas. I watched through the peephole as he approached my door and lifted his hand to knock. But before he could, red and blue lights exploded down the street. 3 DHS vehicles, 2 unmarked SUVs, and 1 very pissed-off Agent Sandoval. Thomas turned to run, but they swarmed him, shouting commands, grabbing his arms, shoving him onto the hood of the sedan. I cracked open the door just as Sandoval read him his rights. Thomas didn't look scared. He looked annoyed, like someone had interrupted a meeting. Sandoval marched him right past me. Mr. Barrett, he said, nodding. You were right to call. Thomas lifted his head just enough to look at me. His eyes were bland, cold, calculating. You don't know what you've done, he said calmly. I stepped closer. No, I said. I finally do. He smirked. She'll come back for you, you know? Women like her always. She already did. I cut in. And she told me the truth. That was enough. He stiffened. A tiny crack in his facade. Good. The truth, her truth, was the one thing he couldn't control. Sandoval shoved him into the back of a DHS vehicle. Doors slammed. Engines roared. And just like that, the man who'd controlled her for decades was gone. It wasn't revenge yet, but it was the beginning. Lena was arrested 2 days later at a motel outside Harrisburg. She'd cut her hair, burned her IDs, tried to go dark. Didn't matter. The charges against her piled into a mountain: fraud, conspiracy, identity theft, tax evasion, falsifying federal documents, and aiding an international criminal network. She pled guilty. 21 years. Her handler got 34. The house felt different after they were gone. Not empty, not haunted, just quiet, like something toxic had finally stopped vibrating in the walls. I sold it within a month. Moved to Chicago, closer to Maya. Got a small apartment, nothing fancy. Started therapy. Started exercising again. Started breathing again. 6 months later, I took a job with a safety consulting firm. Good team. Honest people. No secrets. A year after that, I met someone, Jamie. Dark hair, sharp wit, no patience for bullshit. On our 4th date, she asked me why I hesitated every time someone mentioned trust. I told her the truth. All of it. She didn't flinch. She just leaned back, took a sip of her drink and said, "Well, at least your ex-wife set the bar so low I can basically step over it." For the first time in years, I laughed without feeling guilt attached to it. Sometimes, late at night, I think about Lena in a federal cell, pacing like a caged animal, chewing on the bars she built for herself. I wonder if she blames me. I wonder if she hates me. Then I remember her voice from that night. You weren't supposed to wake up, but I did. And once I did, everything changed. The lies collapsed. The truth surfaced. And I didn't die under the rubble. I crawled out, rebuilt, and walked forward. Because some people build cages from their lies. But some of us, we learn to build exits.